Hello guys, welcome today to your second installment of ARC tutorials. We'll be looking at SketchUp and we'll mainly be looking at how to use it if you're wanting to become an architect, or maybe if you already are an architect and you've never used SketchUp before. Might be highly unlikely, but this is mainly for students if you're thinking about getting into it. But not only for architects, everybody can use this. So no matter what you're doing, if you're an engineering student, if you're looking at becoming a carpenter, whatever you want to do, we'll show you how to do it on here. As ever, if you've got any questions or comments, please pop them below and I'll get back to you and we'll get them tutorials out there for exactly what you want to do. Not just SketchUp as well, obviously we cover Photoshop, AutoCAD and most of the pieces of software which are related to architecture. So got a question, just ask and I'll make sure I'll get the answer to you. Okay, so what we're moving on to today is in our second part. Last time we got as far as making some shapes. And what we're going to do today is we're going to start modifying those shapes, playing around with them and seeing what the different options you've got here on SketchUp and see what you can do. You can see on the left here we've got the large tool set out at the moment, and I'm going to be going through a lot of the different options and different tools that you can use. We covered a few in the first video and we'll go into a lot more detail in this one. Okay, so starting off, if you remember from the last one, using that center scroll wheel on your mouse by clicking down on it, the shortcut that takes us to the pan tool. If you want to click on it, it's either in the top here in the small tool set or in the large tool set on the left hand side here, and then say up at the top. But easy way is if you're just on the arrow, or if you're on, for instance, the pencil tool, just on that center scroll wheel, click down and you'll automatically go to the pan tool. Clicking shift at the same time will take you to the hand tool. As you can see, the pan tool, so that'll take you that way as we went to before. And that center scroll wheel again will take you, by pushing it forward, zoom you in, pulling it out, we'll zoom back out again. Okay, so what we'll do is start off, we'll go back to kind of where we ended up last week. We'll get rid of the woman first. Okay, so last time you saw we created a simple box first of all. So what we'll do first of all is so we create the square first of all. As you can see, the square, and then if you remember, we extrude that. So using this button here, and then we extrude that, and that gives us the cube. Okay, what we're going to go into today is looking at how to add shapes to it first of all, to make it just more than a cube, and then we're going to look at kind of pushing in and pulling out of different shapes and a few different methods as well. The way we're going to do this is we're going to look at modelling a very, very simple house. So we're going to look at putting a roof on there and then looking at putting doors, windows, etc. Onto that house, and that'll kind of form the basis for where we're going to go in the next tutorials, which eventually I'll be showing you how to create kind of a really detailed model of a house using SketchUp and the different methods you can do. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to create a roof on top of here. What you'll see is when I click on the pencil tool, when you actually go towards the shape, you can see the color changes. So from the small red square that you see as we track along the line, when you get to the center, it becomes a small blue circle and it's the midpoint, and this is the midpoint of this line. This is very useful, especially if you're doing symmetrical shapes when you're using SketchUp. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the midpoint first of all to create the height of our roof. Okay, you'll see, it's automatically snapped onto the blue axis. If not, just hit that shift button and it'll snap to that blue axis, as you can see. So red that way, blue that way. Make sure obviously you're not on the green, which will take you to a different direction. Always remember, blue is up, red is your X, and green is your Y. Okay, so first of all, let's just create the height. So you can see on the right hand side, down here, you've got the length. You can take it to whatever you want, or you can type it in. So let's say, for instance, we want 1200. There you go, automatically type it in, press enter, and it snaps. Pardon me. What we're going to do now is we're going to create one half of our roof. So we're going to keep moving until we snap onto the end pointer there by clicking on the left mouse button. Okay, you'll see we've automatically created a triangle. Very simple shape. Okay, what we do then is back up and create the other triangle on the other side. And you'll see now we have a shape. Let me also point out, as you can see, there is always two sides to a shape. The default material on YouTube creates, first of all, a white side and a grey side. It's actually the same material. The only difference in the colour is to show you what's the front and what's the back of a face. So for instance, if I was to open up the cube, you can see all the insides of that grey colour. We Command Z that to go back to where we were. Now what you want to do is you want to extrude the roof back to make it a 3D shape. If you try to do it right now, you can see we've got two shapes. So if you try to extrude it, only one side would go. Let me just pan around so you can see only one side would go. So therefore what we need to do first of all is delete that center line. Now you can either use the eraser tool, so by going over and then clicking on it, or what you can do as well is just using the arrow tool, click on the shape, click your backspace button and delete it. Now what we want to do is we want to extrude it back. Now what you'll see is as we start to extrude, the two outer surfaces become a rear face. Now that's not what we want, and you'll see if we were to extend that all the way, you'll see it snaps as well to the end point again. You'll see that we've got not only a hole, but all the other faces on the external are the rear ones. Now what you could do is on any button, actually, it doesn't matter what button you're on any tool, right click, and then you'll see that just here you've got reverse faces. Now you could do that for every single one, but it's time consuming. Remember, we always talk about shortcuts. We want quicker ways to be able to do things. So what we do here is, if we just Command Z that back to here, is as you're moving it, okay, it's either Control on the PC or using a Mac like me, okay, using the Alt button or the Option button. Okay, so on a Mac you'll see it's the Option button. So you can see it's created those three sides now, and it's also filled this side in. Okay, obviously this side is still on the reverse of, on that one. What we'd have to do is reverse that face. Okay, so if we zoom out now, you can see we've got a very basic looking house, and we've got the roof on there. What we're going to look at next is creating openings, so doorways and windows. What we're also going to do is, while we are looking at this, we're going to introduce you to the tape measure tool, which you can see on the top here. So either here on the top or here on the large tool set here. Okay, what the tape measure does is by clicking on one point, letting go, and then moving to another point, you'll see in the bottom right hand corner it's giving us the length as we move. What you can also do is when you click, that'll create a line which shows you how long that was, and you can see in the right hand here, down here, it's 2723 for instance for that line. What you can also do is you can also offset a line to see how far you either want to take it or how far it is. So for instance, this line on the left hand side, by clicking actually on the edge and moving across, you can see we've got a line that moves all the way along. Okay, and then right hand side as well on the bottom, you've seen that the length is moving as we want. Now if we want to take it to a specific dimension, as we spoke about before, all you do is at this point you type in. So for instance, on this point we'll do 500 millimeters, enter, and it takes us to a key point. Now what you'll see is if I pan around, that these actually extend infinitely. You can see it just keeps going and going and going and going and going. Okay, so those lines will infinitely keep moving. Now what we can do is we can use that line again and offset that line to create our door width. Okay, so on this point, if we want an 850 wide door, type in 850, and there you go, we've got an 850 wide door. Okay, then we use the bottom, okay, to create that door height. Now in this instance, We want a 2 meter high door, 2000 mil, and there you go. Now these lines aren't like the pen tool lines. Okay, these are just guides. The great thing what we can do now though is we can use these guides to create our doorway. You'll see it snaps to every intersection, and there you go. Okay, so now what we've got is we've got our doorway built in. What you'll see is if we click on the surface, we can either click on the door or we can click on the rest of that wall. What you can then do is, if you are finished with those lines, you can select them individually and delete them. Or what you can do is you can highlight them all by dragging from right to left. Okay, if you drag from right to left, it selects everything. Left to right, everything. And then click delete. Let me just go into actually is what we use when we're doing the selection tool. So as you saw before, when I drag from right to left, everything that is in that box, that hashed box, any part of any line or any surface, when you release, it will be selected. So you can see these parts here, this line and this line, not any part of that was selected, so they haven't been selected. What happens is when you drag from left to right, okay, only a whole part of what is in that selection box will be selected. So if I was to release now, you can see only these lines were selected and this surface, because the whole of that surface and the whole of those lines were in that selection box. Okay, now what we'll move on to is looking at the offset tool. So if you go to the very top, you can see here you've got the offset tool. So we click on the offset tool, and what this does is it takes a shape and it offsets it, creating the same shape but in a bigger scale. So for instance, what we do is we click on this surface. By clicking on this surface, it actually offsets that shape, i.e. the 3 lines around it. Okay, as you can see in this instance, what it's actually doing is, because it's the shape, it's actually creating a box around that. It's extending that box. Now what we could do at this point is, if we wanted to make, for instance, this is used for making the frame of the doorway. If we wanted that to be 100 mil, we could do so. But you can see at the bottom here, then what's created is this kind of extension. Now what you could do is quite easily, you could go through and delete every part. Or what you could do in the first instance is you can select just the multiple lines. So the way you select multiple lines is you select one first, just click on it, and then holding down the shift button, you'll see when you hold down the shift button you get a little small plus and minus. This means whatever you click, every time you click, it will either plus or minus it. Okay, so what you do then is you would select every line and then select the offset tool, and now you'll see it's only selected those 3 lines. So now we can offset by 100 mil, and that has created another shape. So you can see now we have the frame and the doorway. So if we wanted to, what we could do at this point is we could create the doorway a complete opening just by deleting that face, and you'll see, okay, we can now enter that box. But as you know, most houses don't have a doorway like this, and the walls tend to be a bit thicker as well. Okay, so what we'll do is, in this instance, first of all, we make that frame. So by extending the frame out, what we do is we go onto the extrusion tool again, and we'll pull that frame out by 50 mil. And you'll see that's given us a more 3-dimensional shape for the doorway. Okay, what we'll do as well is we'll move on to using the rotate tool. The rotate tool is a very useful tool, especially when you're creating doors and windows, etc., and using different shapes, because it allows you to move that door, for instance, to make it in an open position. Now, the way you use the rotate tool is you would select the surface, select the rotate tool, and then you'll see what happens is, as you're moving, you get a compass shape. Now as you move across there, you'll see it snaps to different axes. So it snaps to the green, the red and the blue. It will only snap if something is actually in that plane, otherwise it won't snap. But you can see because we're using a three-dimensional shape, it will snap to every point. Now for instance, if we wanted to open this door, okay, we'd make sure we were right in the corner, okay, and we'd snap to the blue, which is obviously the up and down, so that is selecting everything on that side of the door. Now what you'll see is it won't work straight away, and I'll show you why not. So what you do is you'd click on where you wanted it to start the rotation from, so we'll select the bottom edge of the door. Now as we were to open, you'll see it has pulled with it the rest of the shape. Now obviously we don't want that. And the reason it's done that is because everything is connected at this point. So what you need to do is to make things unconnected, you have to right click on it, okay, so what you need to do is you need to select more than one interface. So for instance, what we'll do is we'll select so using the multi-selection tool, we select every line around and then the face, so you can see we've got more than one. Then right click and you'll see we've got make group. Okay, so now what we've done is we've made that door a group, and you're thinking, well, what does that do? So therefore now when we select this group that we've created and we go to the rotate tool, we do exactly what we did before. Okay, but this time you'll see it hasn't dragged everything else that was connected to it, and we've created that doorway. Now again, this is still just a two-dimensional shape, this doorway. So what we can do is create it and make it a three-dimensional shape, which we'll come on to later. But what you'll see now is that you can't use the extraction tool on a group. And the way to get around this is either when you click on the group, you then double click, okay, and you'll see that only everything within that group is now highlighted. Everything else not in that group has turned a darker grey. Now what you can do is you can edit that group individually using that 3D shape. Okay, what you can also do is you can ungroup it by clicking on the group, right clicking, and then clicking explode. And what this does is it makes none of them connected anymore, and then therefore you could then use the extrusion tool on your shape if you wanted to. Okay, what we're also going to create now is just a quick window, so using the same techniques as we used before. So what we want to do is we're going to make sure that the window is in height, the same height as the doorway, okay, so what we do first of all, hover over the endpoint of the height that you want to be at, and then we move across, so we want to start it from here. I'm going to create that line. Now what we used before again is the tape measure tool. Now using it like we did earlier, okay, we want that window to be 1 meter, 1000 millimeters below. So now we've got 1000. What you could also do at the same time though, is even quicker, is clicking on the edge and typing in 1000. Okay, and remember to be able to snap to another shape, hover over it for just a moment, and you see that blue line appears, the axis line, and there you go, we've created our other shape. And again, if you want to delete that axis, you can do. What you can also do is you can leave all your axes on, your guides, and then go to view at the top, and if you uncheck guides, okay, they'll disappear. Okay, that'll just hide them. So again, using the offset tool, okay, for that whole one, we'll create that the same as we did before, 100 mil. Okay, now what we could do at this point is delete that, and we bring that window frame out, 50 mil. As you can see. Okay, if at this point you wanted to create, so for instance, you wanted to create a center within that window, another beam coming down from the window, what you can do is you can see we can automatically attach to that center point. Now by going off by 50 mil, one way. You'll see it automatically fills in the window, but we can just delete that later. And then going back to that center point, and then going 50mm the other way. And then all we do is you take 2 lines from those 50mm points, either way. And then you'll see we've created that small box. What you can then do is you can then extrude that box down and snap it. So now when we delete these 2 boxes, you can see we've got that center part. What you can also do is to make it more integrated is you can delete that line. So therefore when you're applying a material to it, which we'll come on to a little later tutorial, it will automatically do it to the whole thing. You wouldn't have to apply material to more than one face. Okay, what we'll look at now is adding an arched doorway. So a lot of people have been asking for arches. So what we do first of all is we'll quickly create a doorway. So create a doorway, and then we want to create an arch above this. So what we'll do first of all is we're going to select our our edges, and we're going to offset those by 100mm. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create our arch above this. So you can see on the left hand side here, you got a few different options. Okay, so you can see the arc here. By selecting that, what that does is you can see it creates half a compass shape. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to first of all snap onto here, so hover over for just a moment, scale up, and then click, and then to the other side until it snaps in place. Okay, what I've done here is I've used the wrong one, I've used arc, but as you can see what happens there is you can create a large arc, so it uses the center and then one side. So if you wanted to use this shape, just offset that quickly. So what we wanted to use okay, on here you can see there's different ones we've been using. Okay, what we wanted to use was 2-point arc. Okay, that was the full arc one, which uses the center point and then the right hand side. So what we want to use for this is the 2-point arc. Make sure that's selected. And again, doing what we did before, make sure that snaps on. And then you'll see once you've selected those 2 points using the normal arc tool, you can move up. Now you'll see what happens is at a certain point it snaps and it creates a half circle. If you want a different height, obviously type it in on the right hand side, but at this point we're just going to use a half circle. And again, what we're going to do at this point is we're going to offset. So we're just going to offset, make sure we select that one line there. I'm going to offset that the same as the frame, 100. Okay, what you'll see here is it's created a small little gap here. What we can do is we can just make sure we fill that gap in to create it into one shape. Okay, so now we've got that archway. If we wanted to make the frame all into one, all you'd do is you'd select those lines there and delete those, or what you can use is your eraser tool and delete those lines. So now if you see, if we were to delete the door and delete that window at the top, we created an arched window door frame. Okay, one more thing I'll move on to just before we finish this last tutorial is using the scale tool. Now if we were to create just a simple shape, so we'll just create that simple shape on the floor, what you can do is by clicking the whole of the shape. Okay, so just click the shape, or you can select it all, entirely up to you. And then what you can do is either click on the top here, you can see is the scale tool, or a shortcut, as we spoke about before, is just by typing S on your keyboard. Okay, so just by selecting all, it's like selecting S. Now you'll see what we can do at this point is we can actually scale it, so we can scale it from corner to corner. Okay, you'll see it snaps, or what you can do is make it wider or longer. And you'll see on the bottom right hand corner you've got a scale value that you can scale up and down to. Now what you can also do is if it is a 3D shape, again by selecting the whole shape and then either clicking S or clicking on the scale button, you'll see it now creates a 3D scale tool. So what you can do is you can do a uniform. Okay, so this just makes this shape smaller. So if you want the shape 10 times smaller, what you type in is 0.1. If you want it 10 times bigger, you type in 10. And then again, what you can do is different ways. So by using center points, you can make it longer, wider, thinner, entirely up to you. And again, using the scale value. If you're not sure what scale you need, so what size, what you can do is using that measurement tool. So for instance, if we want this 800, we'd make that guide, select the whole shape by left clicking 3 times. So triple click, 1, 2, 3, you can see the double click selects one face, triple click selects the whole shape. Onto that scale again, and what we can do this time is we can snap to that line. So now I know this is 800 mil wide, and that is how you use the scale tool. Okay, thanks for watching. If you've liked this one, move on to tutorial 3. If it's not out just yet, check on the date of this video and it'll be within a week of this video. Okay, if you've got any comments or suggestions, please put them below. If you want to know how to do something, just pop it in the bottom. I'll make sure I get it in one of the future videos, and that's on any program. Please also click on the link which you'll see now appearing in the bottom if you'd like to donate. Remember that one of these tutorials, a full series, would usually cost you kind of upwards of £100, so a small donation is very welcome. Thanks for watching and see you again soon. Bye.